What's going on, guys? SasDood here. You can just call me Saz. I hope everyone is having a great day. Today we have a art quick tips video, and this particular quick tip is how to shade my way using a mechanical pencil, right? So for this exercise, all we need is a couple of mechanical pencils. You may just need one. I have three. A piece of paper to draw on and some scrap paper as well. So let's set these aside. So right here I have a ink soft scripts 0.7 I got from Dollar Tree. I have a Bic 0.5 HB number 2 from Walmart, and the same Bic pencil but in 0.9. And what I wanted to demonstrate is how there are certain ways to shade with mechanical pencils, and there are ways you can shade with a mechanical pencil just like a regular number 2 pencil that you would find in schools and whatnot. So usually when you do mechanical pencil shading, right, you do a lot of cross hatching, you do a lot of this, right? Cross hatching different directions to indicate different types of shading, and that's well and good, right? You have scribbling, you've got stippling, you've got the, I forgot what this is called, where you do circles. That one is good as well, right? Indicate different shades of darkness. But there is also a different way to shade that I like to use in my most recent drawings, where I don't really use cross hatching anymore. To lean into the more pencil aesthetic, I use graphite shading, right? And that is simply this, right? So I don't know if you can see this, but I have worn down the tip of my 0.9 right here to provide a slanted edge to it, and as a result what you get is something along the lines of a regular graphite shading that you would get when you sharpen a pencil all the way up to the point, right? And the lead is like this long, and you get this big piece of thin lead that you can basically shade on the side like this. And you can't really do that with mechanical pencils. Of course, if you take off the back right here, right, you take out one of these leads, and you can shade doing that, right? I don't know how you would do that, but that is a thing you can do, right? But maybe I will explore more in the future about that. But for this technique, this is what it looks like. And how to achieve this is I have my 0.7 here. This is not sharpened as much, maybe, so I'll break off a piece of lead, and I'm going to take my scrap paper that I have over here, and as you can see, I've already used this to shade a lot in recent times. So I recommend having a scrap paper just to protect your hand from the graphite, as well as to sharpen your mechanical, right? And what you want to do is you just, oops, I don't have much lead in here. There you go. What you want to do is just wear down your lead over and over. Just press down on it hard, depending on your lead size. If it's a 0.7, it's not going to break too easily by wearing it down, but if you're using like a 0.5 or a 0.3, that lead is very, very fragile, and you can't really push down on it too hard without it breaking. So it's a little sharpened. Let's just keep pushing it. You can already see the difference in quality as I keep wearing down that side of the lead. Right, so it's been worn down pretty good. So now what you want to do is you want to find the side that you wore it down by just looking at it, and it's kind of hard to tell, so you kind of have to hold it and not really let go. And if you do let go, like if you rotate your pencil like you usually do when you're drawing, you're gonna find that it's really hard to find it. But find that point and just keep shading, and eventually you'll get something like this. And you can see that these are very similar to each other. The only difference is between the sizes is the size of the graphite you're putting down, right? And when you do shade using this technique, what you can do to find if you're really shading correctly is that you're kind of on, it feels like a waxy part of the pencil. When you shade with it, it feels like it's waxy. It kind of just glides over the paper as opposed to the more sharp part, right? So you'll know you're shading correctly using this technique if the pencil, the mechanical pencil, just kind of glides over the paper, right? And here it is again, 0.9. So let's find that slanted edge. Sometimes you'll mess up like right here or like over here, and you'll darken your lines like that I just did right there. But that's okay, you know, not everything's gonna be perfect. If you really want to not mess up too hard, you can always try to find where that waxy part of the pencil is, like right there. I just found it. And then keep that hand position and just keep shading like that. So for instance, if we had a, let me switch over to my 0.5. If we had a square and 2-point perspective, something like that, a quick 2-dimensional cube or whatever you want to call it, and the sunlight is like hitting up here, right? This, or maybe it's like hitting over here or something. This top part is going to be completely white because that's where the majority of the light is hitting, right? So that means we have our secondary shading right here, and we have our secondary shading right here. So then we find that waxy part and we just kind of shade with it. And you want to be light with your touch, right? You don't want to go on it too hard. So we have 5, what I like to say is 5 values. That can be more. If you do more, it's going to look messy. But here's our first value where it's just shaded. So now we're going to be in the second. So this was the first lightest part. This is the second where there's a little bit of shade. Now we're on the third lightest part of this cube, and I'm struggling to find where that, there it is, where that slanted part of the mechanical is. And I recommend doing longer strokes instead of shorter ones, depending how much you want to use your shoulder and how hard you want to press, things like that, right? Because you can kind of blend it in if you use like some sort of tissue or wax paper or whatever. So we have our second darkest, and then we're just going to go over it again, right? You always want to start light first when shading, and you never want to go dark immediately, because you can always go darker, but you can't always go lighter when you're shading, right? Even if you try to lighten it up using tissues or whatnot. So there we have our second darkest portion of this square cube thing. And just to demonstrate the value scale, so like this is 1, this is 2. So we're just gonna go through 3 values. We got 3, we got 4, and we've got 5. So these aren't gonna be perfect value scales, but first lightest, right? So technically this would be the first lightest because it's just pure white. But let's, for simplicity's sake, let's do first lightest right here, second lightest. So you just want to darken it a little. You don't want to darken it too much. Put a little bit of pressure, but not too much on it, right? And you can already see that it's darker from the top one to the second one. Put a little bit more pressure on it. And we have the third darkest. Very hard to see, but it is visible. So let's get our fourth darkest. Let's push a little bit harder from the start. Right? It's not going to be entirely black, but it's going to be pretty dang close. Let's do a little darker. So we have our fourth darkest right here, and then our darkest, we can just pure flat out just go hard on the lead right here. And we have achieved our fifth darkest. And you can see a clear value scale going from 1 to 2. From 2 to a little bit of 3. Maybe you can darken up the 3. Darken up the 4th. And go straight into the 5th, right? And you can always go darker, right? You can always go darker. But this is just a fast and loose value scale, right? And that's basically the trick to shading with like graphite using the side of your pencil right here, because you can see the slant. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Get closer to it. I recommend with this method using a 0.9 pencil rather than a 0.5, because the 0.5 lead is very fragile. And 0.7 lead is better than the 0.5. It's stronger lead. It gets you the same graphite quality depending on if you're using the same pencil and the same lead, if you're consistent between your pencils. But it doesn't cover as quite a big an area as the 0.9. See, let's find that right there. Might have to need to replace the lead on this one. It's really tedious to shade using the 0.7 and the 0.5. But once I pull out the 0.9, you can see how much easier, how much area I cover more due to the lead being thicker. And you can experiment as well. You can do even bigger leads, like you can do the 2mm stuff and you can sharpen that by yourself and things like that. But for now, that's my trick for shading using a mechanical pencil, or the way I like to do it. Not a lot of artists like to do that, I think. I haven't seen many artists use this technique to shade, and I completely found this out by myself, and I did a little bit of research online and I found out that other people do this too. So I have an article that I'm going to link in the description about how the artist that I saw, he had a website talking about using the broadside of a mechanical, and it was a really eye-opening article that he wrote on using the broadside of a mechanical rather than just using hatching, stippling, scribbling, and circling to shade. And of course, there's many other shading techniques as well. Anyways, guys, that's it for today's art tip. Hopefully you learned something about shading using the broadside of a mechanical pencil. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you wish to support my artwork and my videos, all my social media and payment tipping links are in my profile. More videos and artwork will come regardless. Goodbye for now.